Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So the question I'm going to ask today is, what happened to the Droid Android phones? Now, if you are old enough to remember whenever Android was first released here in the United States in 2009, I think everybody can remember the whole commercial of Droid and how Motorola was really, in my opinion, the company that ushered in Android in a big way. But there was another company which has been with Android since the beginning, and that was HTC. And as a matter of fact, the very first Android phone that I bought and the second Android phone or Droid phone that was released in the US alongside the Motorola Droid was this one right here. This is the DROIIIIIIDDDDD. And this one is actually a rebranded version of the HTC Dream, which came out in Europe. So technically, this is the very first Android phone. Now, I myself, I really wanted the Motorola Droid. Now, this isn't the Motorola Droid, this is the Droid X, so this is the sequels to it. But it was a little too expensive for me. And I really wanted an Apple iPhone, to be honest with you. But that was so hot, nobody could get it. But when I did get the DROIIIIIDDDD, and it was my first experience not only with an Android phone, but also with a smartphone with its touch capability, it was absolutely amazing. And I kind of knew that I would never go back to flip phones again. And so what actually happened to the Droid phones? Because as early as 2017, we still had the Droid line technically, because Verizon was releasing their Moto Z series, the Motorola phones, and they still had some of the Droid branding, but I think ever since 2017 that's disappeared. But honestly, I think the whole Droid line of phones actually lost a lot of their popularity and brand power like a few years ago. Basically, I think that was the height of it, where we had like a lot of Motorola Droid phones, we had a lot of HTC Droid phones, and I think by the time it got to the Droid Razr, which I thought was going to be super successful because it is based upon the Motorola Razr flip phone, which was, I think, the most popular product that Motorola had. And then after that, it was the Motorola Droid. And then also they came out the Droid Max. And so ever since then, I don't think people really attach Android to Droid anymore, because obviously there was way more other companies producing Android phones. And there was a little company called Samsung who basically took the crown of Android. But one thing that I could definitely say about Droid, especially with the way the marketing was handled with Verizon, was it was extremely memorable. Because in 2009, when it was released, the marketing approach that they took was basically the anti-iPhone. If you remember the commercials, there was a commercial that showed like, I can't do this, I can't take pictures at night, I don't have widgets. So what they're referring to was the iPhones, how they couldn't do any of these things. And then the end tagline was, Droid does. And so this new Droid phone does everything that your iPhone can't. And the marketing was really geared towards guys, you know, mostly geeks and stuff. And they were basically portraying the Apple iPhone as a phone for girls, you know, as basically a pretty phone. Whereas the Droid, it's a manly phone, you know, it just crush everything. And it was more about functionality. And that's what separated Android from Apple at the beginning, and it worked. You know, just put it out there. We got more functionality. It's a more powerful phone. It had a slide-out keyboard, and it just sounded cool to say Droid. And then the whole commercial kept saying Droid, and that marketing and branding, I think, was excellent. And I really feel Android would not be where it is today if it wasn't for Verizon and Motorola and HTC for pushing all these Droid phones out and really getting the brand message out there. Now, eventually, after a while, I think that whole initial marketing of this is for guys, for tech heads and geeks, that no longer worked. Because the whole goal, I think, with any company is to appeal to mass consumers. Okay, so once that whole Droid thing got out, and then after a while, you had more competitors like Samsung and countless other companies, now you are pretty much competing with Apple iPhone, you know, because they pretty much own the mass consumer market. And now that's where we're at today with Android. You know, I don't think people really think about it as a Droid phone anymore. Some people actually refer to Android phones as Droid, which wasn't the case. It was just the branding for these phones. And I really feel that if it wasn't for the Droid phones, I think Android would have eventually taken over. It just would have taken much, much longer, because there really wasn't anything out there at the time of the Apple iPhone that even came close. Even though Windows has had their portable devices for a long time running Windows CE, it just didn't have that appeal that the iPhone had, and it didn't have anything distinct. But what Verizon did, it really helped a lot in building the foundation for Android. And I think besides the fact that it was losing popularity as Android grew, I just really feel like they just couldn't compete anymore. You know, especially when you have companies like Samsung, LG, and all these other Chinese manufacturers like Huawei, and even Google itself with their Pixel phones, you know, were coming out. It just did a much better job of delivering what people wanted, and obviously these other companies were much bigger, and so they had a lot of money to spend on it as well. And so yeah, that's what happened to the Droid line, and that was a very important part of history for me, at least, because this was my very first experience with an Android phone, and I still use it today. Now, if I was able to afford an iPhone back then, I don't know, things might be different now. I might have been a huge Apple fanboy, but I'm so glad that I did get into the whole Droid world, and you know, I'm using it today. I still love Android. I still have my LG G5, oldie but goodie. At some point, I will upgrade again, and hopefully people won't forget the significance of Droid. And so if you had any thoughts on this, whether you remember the whole Droid lines or any of these other Android phones that I talked about here, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.